Yesterday, we told you about the Northern Gateway oil pipeline proposal. After 4 years, seriously, 4 years, which is longer than the period of time between when Pearl Harbor was attacked in 1941 and the U.S. dropped atomic bombs on Japan in 1945. After 4 years, the Canadian government's bureaucrats are poised to finally release their ruling on whether or not this pipeline can proceed. That, my friends, is moving at the speed of government. Well, this week, another oil pipeline company has decided to sign up for its dose of bureaucratic abuse, too. A pipeline company called Kinder Morgan has filed its proposal with the National Energy Board to build another pipeline from Alberta to the Pacific Coast, too. It's about a $5 billion jobs project also. BC is so lucky. Seriously, between the Northern Gateway pipeline proposed by Enbridge and this Trans Mountain pipeline proposed by Kinder Morgan, that's close to $12 billion of construction work, most of which will be in BC. What other province wouldn't love $12 billion for everyone from truckers to welders to car rental companies and hotels and restaurants and engineers and accountants, everyone? I mean, these two proposals alone, all private money, by the way, will sop up, what, 1%, 2%, 3% of BC's unemployment rate? These two companies call themselves for-profit corporations, and they are, but they're also job-creating machines, Aboriginal employment machines, skills training machines, and with all the taxes they're going to pay in perpetuity, these pipelines, there's school building, hospital building, teacher hiring, nurse hiring machines too. There's only one word to use with companies like this, and it's thanks. Let's just see if the National Energy Board can get this next review done, by, say, is 2017 too much to ask for? Dare we say 2016? I mean, imagine being unemployed and forced to wait for these bureaucrats to make a goddamn decision because they want to hear from every environmental lobbyist and eco-kook who doesn't like oil, even while they're using their iPhone made from plastic, which is made from oil. The National Energy Board says it tests things like economic need for a pipeline and environmental safety, stuff like that. But it's actually a bigger test, a test of if we're serious as a country anymore, that we can actually do anything or build anything. I truly believe that if we had these same bureaucrats and these same foreign lobbyists 120 years ago, Canada would never have built the Canadian Pacific Railway. For sure not. And BC probably would have wound up as a U.S. state. Maybe that's actually the same reason these U.S. lobbyists oppose these pipelines that would bring our oil to the Pacific. They want to lock all of our oil landlocked and force us to keep selling it to the U.S. at a deep price discount. They don't want us to have any other customers, especially customers who would pay world prices for our oil. But back to the new Kinder Morgan proposal. I support all pipeline proposals, by the way. Keystone XL, Kinder Morgan, Northern Gateway, the proposed Energy East pipeline. It's weird to oppose a pipeline any more than to oppose any other piece of public infrastructure. I mean, since when do politicians take a political stance against, say, a water main pipe or a sewer pipe or a fiber optic cable being put in your neighborhood? I mean, these are normal accoutrements of an industrial society. Only $300 million of foreign eco money has conditioned us to be suspect of oil pipelines. It's just really weird. But let me tell you a bit about what makes Kinder Morgan's Trans Mountain pipeline different. It's already built. It's been pumping away for more than 60 years. It was an engineering marvel of its day, building a pipeline from Alberta to Vancouver over the Rocky Mountains. Amazing. And it's worked flawlessly since your grandparents were young. So what Kinder Morgan is actually doing is applying to expand their pipeline, to make it bigger. Tons of construction work, tons of jobs, but the same route. No new issues like land claims or a new right-of-way. It would be like a railway company putting down a second parallel set of train tracks. I mean, it's tough to oppose that if they've been operating the first set of train tracks, well, since the middle of the last century. It's not just that the pipeline has been there for decades. So has the tanker terminal at the end of it. You might remember that I visited the Burrard Inlet in Vancouver the day of the BC election last May. Here it is, a very inconspicuous end of the pipeline. And below it, a tanker terminal. That's right, for decades without a single navigational incident ever. Oil tankers have been filling up the end of this pipeline and escorted by tugboats very carefully sailing out to sea, which is why you've never heard of it, because it's safer than anything. 60 years without an incident, week in, week out. That's amazing. Well, that's why the eco-lobbyists hate it so much, because it works. Unlike wind turbines and solar panels and whatever science fair experiment they're pitching now, oil works, pipelines work, tankers work. That's why we use them. And they're safer than any other mode of transporting oil. By the way, Vancouver's port is huge. It's industrial. It's the busiest port in Canada. Tens of thousands of jobs, lumber, minerals, coal, oil, everything Canada makes going out, everything Canada imports from Asia coming in. Vancouver isn't just fancy eco-freaks sitting in Starbucks with their iPhones. It's actually a hard-working, blue-collar, hard-hat town too, which is probably why NDP leader Adrian Dix got the shock of his life when he lost the last provincial election, and all observers point to his opposition to the proposed Kinder Morgan expansion as the cause. It wasn't just unfair of Dix and the NDP to oppose this proposed pipeline expansion before it was even formally put forward. It wasn't just prejudicial to literally prejudge a hearing that hadn't even begun. It was just ahistorical to worry about a company with a perfect historical record. It showed his true stripes. The NDP was anti-oil no matter what the cost, no matter how extreme they were. And BCers realized that the NDP was no longer the party of the working man. Adrian Dix would kill thousands of jobs and a perfectly safe project just to earn some brownie points with the eco-freaks. So Adrian Dix lost. He blew a 22-point lead in those polls because he opposed this Kinder Morgan pipeline. Of course, the eco-freaks themselves don't have to worry about something as tiresome as winning elections or convincing people, especially low-class working people, of anything. So just a few weeks ago, a group of well-paid, wealthy, liberal, white Greenpeace activists, spoiled rich kids really, broke into that Kinder Morgan facility, trespassed, and took over the place. Talk about creating a risk for an oil spill. You'd almost think they wanted to create an oil spill politically, since none has ever happened naturally. They're saboteurs. But what's even crazier than this Greenpeace lawbreaking is that the police just stood by. They didn't do anything to remove the trespassers. They just stood there. And when the crime spree ended, the police just let the criminals go. I am serious. Gee, I wonder if Greenpeace will be deterred by that quality police work. So we know where Adrian Dix stands. He's against the expansion of this pipeline. We know where the BC voters stand. They understand that the Trans Mountain Pipeline has been quietly working away for 60 years with no problems, and they want Kinder Morgan to have a fair hearing. We know where foreign-funded eco-radicals stand. They know it's safer to hijack Canadian oil and gas installations than to, say, try to hijack a Russian oil rig where they actually throw criminals in jail. We know that Stephen Harper and the Conservatives are in favor of oil pipelines in principle, but have said they'll let the National Energy Board review individual projects. But what about, say, Justin Trudeau? Yesterday we showed you that he was against the Enbridge Northern Gateway pipeline.
The Northern Gateway pipeline, as proposed by Enbridge, is not the right solution. It goes through too vulnerable a place environmentally. The buy-in, the necessary buy-in from the Aboriginal peoples simply isn't there, and the way it's been handled, I don't think it's going to be there. But there are other ways of getting the oils out there, and I know that corporations and oil companies are looking at different ways of doing it, and I look forward to seeing more projects like that, and I'm sure someone's going to figure out how to do it.
I love how he says there's other ways of getting the oils out there. You know you're talking to a policy expert when you hear a guy say oils. You know, one oil, two oils. You know, it's like a banking expert. One money, two monies. Him big smart. But he said he's open to any other way to get oil to the Pacific, just not Enbridge's Northern Gateway. So does he support Kinder Morgan's proposal to twin its current pipeline? Or will he at least let, you know, the experts hear the case? I mean, he loves asking experts about everything else. It's basically his default answer. When he doesn't know an answer to a policy question, he says, trust the experts? I mean, take a look at this montage.
I'm going to defer to scientists.
I respect science. I respect scientists.
With experts, talking to people from around the world, listening to evidence, listening to experts, trusting the judiciary.
When you hear him say that, just think, he doesn't know the answer. But will he defer to the experts here? Or does he still believe that nothing the Energy Board says or does can ever be legitimate? That's actually what he said a few months ago. Look at this.
Yes or no? Do you support Keystone XL?
Yes, we had a Canadian, when the Canadian Energy Board made the decision that it was, in the best interest of this country. It was before Mr. Harper had polarized it and made it super negative.
Super negative and polarized it. He's been texting too much with his lady friends. Super negative. LOL. It's so tough to figure out his position on oil. He's for the Keystone XL pipeline. He's against the Northern Gateway pipeline. He says he was for Keystone XL because Harper hadn't been super negative about the board, but it's the same National Energy Board that approved Keystone that's going to approve Northern Gateway. They actually heard it at the same time, but he thinks one ruling is legitimate and the other is not because somebody was super negative, dude. I'm curious. I wonder what excuse Justin Trudeau will come up with for opposing Kinder Morgan's proposal. I presume he's going to oppose it. I don't know. I wonder if he's even heard of it or if he knows that there's been a pipeline and tankers in Vancouver since before his dad was even an MP. I doubt he knows. I doubt he even cares. All he knows is that, like his father before him, he doesn't much like Alberta or oil. The rest, well, he'll just make it up on the fly.